So I watched your video. Did something different with the seating. They're on the floor.
Oh, yes, I did. I did. Yes.
Yeah, that's good to kind of switch it up a little bit and give a little bit of diversity to the classroom seating structure. They have one of the things that I looked at, because looking at seating design on the floor, I do like a lot of floor work, even for older people, students and all, with high school. Giving yourself a little bit of space between, they were kind of close. I didn't know if there's a way to give them just enough space so you could walk down the middle and not always on the outside. But then the students in the middle, you weren't able to really access them. And I saw the two ladies just really enjoying themselves, that, they're taking full advantage of not having that aisle.
I see.
I mean, I know it was scripted, but I could see actual students. They emulated all of the middle school, elementary school, high school behaviors that you could think of. Everything was in there. So I think that was good practice for you, but they were really being very authentic to the characteristics that you might see in students in the classroom, with the phone, turning around and not paying attention to you. All those things go on. So I think that was really good. So I think that you handled it well in that respect. I wanted to go over your good points because I did enjoy the video. I like that the interaction, and I love that now that you've brought the culture in with the little slides and the things, and you're using some language, some words, and some actions that they might be more familiar with. I think that's very helpful for students to see somewhat of themselves in their curriculum, and it's also a research-based action that they're asking teachers to take, is it to become connected to their students' culture, home life or social culture, some type of a way, and present elements of that in the lesson, which you did, which I was glad to see. You had the kids doing a little bit of karate, that's a universal, not saying it's an activity, or maybe it's a sport, or some people use it just for, relaxation, so whatever. But you did put some things in there that they were familiar with, which was really good.
Yeah.
I love the demonstrative teaching. You did it just a really, really good job with that, connecting with them. And that meets our standard as far as development of appropriate instruction, that you were engaging them. They're based on students' needs. They need to see you pulling out that action. Action verbs are one of the funnest things to teach anyway. No matter what grade level it is or the language you're trying to teach to the students, it's a lot of fun. So I saw that you did that. And then having the students act it out, which was really good. I thought that was helping them connect with the word, how to use the word, and it also helps them memorize it a little bit better when they're actually acting it out and doing that. So for that developmental appropriate instruction, I gave a 4 on that score for standard 1 for that. A really good job with that. And then going on to standard 2, valuing the students. I think you did that by incorporating cultural elements of them in that. And also with the positive interactions that you gave them when they were not behaving. There wasn't any screaming, and there wasn't any belittling of the students. You were nudging them back, please do that. What do we do? How do we sit? Kind of bring them back into the fold of the classroom, even though they did need to be, addressed. It wasn't done in a unkind way. So I think that shows that you're being respectful to them. And one of the other things that I saw on there, I made a note of it, was when I saw when you were teaching hit and push, they were, of course, behaving like the young kids would. They would start hitting and pushing. But I thought maybe if you would ask them to apologize to each other for misbehaving towards the other person, might kind of bring up that level, kind of increase that you value that person that was not treated well. And then you also show the respect to the other person that you didn't do correctly. Your behavior was not as it should have been, but I'm also acknowledging my bad behavior and I'm apologizing to the person. So I thought that might kind of increase the level of respect for your class, because if a student's mistreated in class and the teacher just tells you, okay, over there, you stop, what does that do for the person that was being mistreated? We want to try and bring that person back in, because sometimes it shuts students down. They feel like, oh, she's just gonna let the person hit me, and she's just only gonna acknowledge them, but I'm hurt, or my feelings are hurt. Okay, so I thought that might be a little something you might want to consider in that respect. And then I'm on still on standard 2, students with learning differences or needs. I think you did a good job with that with ESL. You use pictures, the demonstrative teaching. All your students are supposed to be ESL or ELLs, but you did use strategies that are considered best practices with them. Listen and repeats. So I gave you a 4 on that because you did make all appropriate accommodations for that. You had them moving, which is another element of teaching ELLs. And so and partner pairing and sharing and working with a partner, all those elements were there. So I don't think that that's something that that you struggle with. And even the first one you did, it was still very good when we did the first discussion about your videos, the baseline. So I don't see a change. You're still moving forward, and you've actually increased it a little bit more. I saw more movement this time than I had before. So I think you're doing a really good job with that. And then we're on unit 3, which is standard 3, learning environments. One of the things I think we're gonna have to go ahead and accept a 3 because we can't connect with families. So everything that you did was a 4, but so much of it is the outstanding is based on the family connections, which aren't there. So you would get a 4 if it was just on your interaction with the student. But this is kind of a global standards for teaching. So I think that they're expecting everyone to do these things, but in some situations like yours, it's just not possible. But the student part of interaction, if I could put a 4, I would give a 4 because the students seemed to be engaged. I saw hand raising, and even though when they shout out is not considered appropriate for the setting, it's not one of the norms, it shows engagement. It shows that they're interested, it shows that they want to participate. And that's one of the things as a teacher, when I see the kids doing that, even though they don't raise their hand and I have to say something, please raise your hand, I'm glad to see that they're wanting to participate and not remembering the rule. The eagerness kind of keeps them from raising their hand because they're so excited to participate. And I do like to see that. So that's not necessarily a negative. It's not because if they were just sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm waiting, and like Ferris Bueller, just come on with the students, then I think that would be more problematic than them shouting out answers, because that shows that they're not engaged. So I don't see that to be a bad thing. So don't worry about that part.
I definitely prefer students shouting out English at me rather than not saying anything or shouting out Korean. So
yes, absolutely.
I'll try to praise the shouting in English as much as I can. So I'm like, as long as it's English, I'm fine. That's all that matters.
Yeah, so that's something that's to be proud about, because they are trying to be engaged. So if that happens, like with your real students, I know these are people are kind of character actors for you, but if that does happen, that's not necessarily bad. Okay, let's look at our next one is student-centered classrooms. I didn't see I worked backwards from outstanding on back, but I didn't see where they were participating in any decisions that were being made. But I don't know that with this particular setting that you have, you're having to make students and doing that. That might not be something that you're able to do. So I don't have any evidence of that. I do have evidence that you had them collaborating together on things. I was having a little bit of difficulty telling whether or not you were learning from what they were talking about, because they weren't really giving their ideas or understanding too much of anything. So that was kind of a difficult thing for me to really look at. Like if you asked them a question, like when they were doing CHOP, what other ways could CHOP be used? So that was okay, that was fine. And then now we're going on to the next one, is managing the learning environment, norms and procedures. I think you did a good job with that, reminding them to raise their hands, keep your eyes facing forward. What are you supposed to be doing? When you got their attention as a class, I forgot the response that you had them do. You say, was it class?
Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah, look at you. Yes, that one. Okay, so you had that as part of your norms and procedures. I think you did a good job with that. So that was one of the ones I gave a 4 with, because you just did keeping them on that, keeping them engaged, I like the organization of you giving everybody the colors. We talked about that before, and you let them know you were going to be coming through. You know, they did know that they weren't going to be just out there to work all by themselves and they're going to figure it out. They knew that they were going to have your support. The monitoring behavior and that, I didn't see that, but I don't know that you do that because you're a specials teacher and doing that extracurricular thing. Also, because I think that also connects with you having going back with it, not working with the parents and such like that. Like with Class Dojo, you get points for good behavior and different things like that. Do you use anything like that, like Class Dojo or anything like that?
I have used Class Dojo in the past, and once I get the students in my classroom, I do plan to use Class Dojo. Just with this scenario with my adult friends, I didn't think to incorporate it into this lesson, but I should be doing that because I will be using Class Dojo in my classroom. Like I already have their names set up, waiting for them and everything, but I just don't have the students yet. When I used Class Dojo in the past, I would give out points when students, like I gave out points to the best students of the class. I gave out points to the most participative, I think that's a word, group in the class. I gave out points to the students that come to class early or like stay after to ask for help. I gave out mostly participation points. Behavior as well. I had a real hard time getting students to class on time. So I would give out points for the whole class being on time, or I would take away points for students not coming to class. So I do have some sort of Class Dojo situation set up. My students were actively engaged the entire time. There were a couple behavioral issues, but I was able to get them back on task easily. And they participated in everything that I asked them to. And I think I incorporated well-rounded activities that featured individual, group, and pair workings to create that collaborative environment. Yes, and I will agree with you where you said I approached my students calmly and addressed issues with a neutral tone and was able to get my students back on track when they were off track.